Hello everyone, and welcome back to yet another live stream. I'll make sure I won't do these as often as I have been doing, because I know I have been going live a lot recently. I think I'm just getting a lot adjusted to the process of going live, and like when I should, when I shouldn't. But I think I have more of a basis now for when I absolutely have to go live. And I thought I did at this moment because currently we do have 3 tornado warnings right now, and I do think that is enough to consider it an outbreak. Maybe not necessarily, because also realize that these aren't confirmed on the ground, but I still think it's necessary to watch these storms due to the danger that is present with them. Anyways, we do have 3 tornado warnings, like I said, 2 of them in Illinois and 1 of them in Wisconsin. Now, this one here north of Linden does look a little interesting. There's a little bit of rotation here north of Linden along Interstate 88, and I mean, it's not the strongest rotation, but definitely a little something could be there. We have to watch. We're so unsure. Ooh. That kind of caught me off guard. Is that a debris ball? That is really weird. Oh. I have no idea what that is, but that doesn't look good. I'm not going to say that's a tornado on the ground, because I don't know, but usually what the CC drop means, usually when you see blue, that means debris is being lofted into the air. That means debris, this is particles that usually are in the sky that are like falling or going upwards in the sky. Usually this can just be hail. Sometimes it can be debris from houses being lifted into the air, and it almost looks like we have that north of Linden. I don't know. That is really concerning, but moving on, we have this storm near East Moline and Carbon Cliff in Illinois. Now, this one doesn't seem too concerning. I think there's a little bit of rotation over here, but I don't know if this necessarily should be warned, but they warned it, so I can't really agree against them. So just stay in your shelter, because it's always good to be safe. Just stay in your shelter if you're in Kelowna, Carbon Cliff, Cleveland, Coal Valley, East Moline, Silvis, all these areas that are under the tornado warning, because this still is somewhat concerning, especially since that this is a tornado warning and there could be a tornado on the ground. Alright, rotation is seeming like it's starting to weaken north of Linden. It's still there. And, okay, since it didn't continue, since the debris ball apparently didn't continue, it might still be there a little bit. I don't think that was anything. I don't think it was. I almost thought it was. I don't think it is. But I don't know. Maybe we had something brief. I don't think so. But we still have to worry about this storm. Also, look at this. 2-inch hail. Now, 2-inch hail in diameter, that is definitely some huge hail. That would be about the size of a golf ball, which is pretty large and definitely can damage a lot of places. You do have to worry about this system because it could damage some houses, some vehicles, and definitely worry because 2-inch in diameter hail is way past severe limits, so that definitely is pretty concerning. And really, this doesn't seem like a marginal risk, I would say. That's what the SBC has issued here. They have issued a marginal risk for this system with 2% tornado risks in Illinois, Iowa, Missouri, Wisconsin, and in Louisiana. But I don't know, it almost feels like this one could have been upgraded. It could have. Like, I'm not judging against them. It's fine if they're playing it safe a little bit, if they're not, like, going to say that this is going to be a huge threat. If they want to keep it marginal, that's fine by me. But this event is turning out to be pretty intense. Definitely a little bit larger than what you would usually expect from a marginal. We've seen that a lot this year, though, so it's not really their fault. It's just, I don't know. These storms have been harder to predict. I'm not saying it should be upgraded to a slight risk. I think it's still fine the way it is, but you know, we still have a couple of these storms. So we do have this one storm in Wisconsin that I haven't really talked about, and this actually did produce tornadoes before. It produced 3 tornadoes from what it seems like. All of them were on Storm Chaser streams. The ones that I named were Andromeda, Bjorn, and Cosette. This storm doesn't seem like it's producing anything at the moment, though. The main tornado we were looking at was back here towards Sherland. There was a tornado on the ground that was captured on a few Storm Chasers' ground, and it looked almost like a wedge. I don't know if it was, and plus it doesn't really make a difference if it's weak. It doesn't matter. I don't know how weak it was because, of course, they haven't had the damage reports come out yet, but I bet it wasn't very strong, and I hope nobody got injured from it. It seems unlikely, but we still have to watch. We have to watch if any of these storms spin up. We already are seeing these tornado warnings come out. Still not really sure where the rotation is on this thing. It might be here, but still unsure at the moment. You can see the rotation a little better here. It's either here or here near Morrison. Oh, well, you look at that. It's my name. And up to the northeast of Linden in Illinois. It is approaching towards Sterling along Interstate 88. Let's see if that's weird. Yeah, it's not there anymore. I think that was just a glitch in the system. I don't think we saw any debris. But, you know, we always have to worry. We always have to worry like that. Because, of course, worrying is better. Maybe not be scared. I don't mean be scared. I mean just worry. Just be concerned and understand that something may happen. I mean, that's what a lot of people say. Prepare for the worst, but hope for the best. That's a thing that everybody says. I'm not going to say it a million times. I'm not going to drill into your head because, listen, I'm not that type of person that just copies what other people say. But you do have to use that as advice because it is important. But yeah, anyways, let's look into the setup for today. Let's look up exactly what is happening. Let me just turn my camera off. Alright, so here we are going to look at the conditions that are in place, specifically the CAPE, the amount of energy that is present with these storms. So you can see this is around 4 p.m. on Monday, which is about now. This system over here is looking pretty decent. This is in the Midwest. Of course, I'm going to go into the Louisiana portion of this storm later on. That is also interesting, and there's a few severe storms on that too. If you look briefly, there is a few severe thunderstorms warning in Arkansas and Louisiana. These are unlikely to produce tornadoes, but we still have a bit of rotation on this one in the upper levels. Of course, this is farther out. That means that the radar is hitting upper levels more, like the radar is reaching farther distances. There's a bit of rotation on this storm near Dumas. I'm not really sure if that is a real rotating storm. It's definitely not rotating like these storms up here. Even this storm, I mean, this storm does have a considerable rotation with it. Even though this one has kind of weakened a little bit, but you can still see a little bit of rotation near Morrison. And up here, we still have this tornado warning. You can see some rotation over here and over here. By the way, just so you know, guys, I did say it in the description. I have to leave for something. I have this meeting at around 6 p.m., so I won't be able to. I'll have a gap in the live stream. I might come back if this event is still ongoing. If it's not, if it has calmed down, then I won't go back live, but I might take a break just because I have a meeting at around 6, so just realize that, and that is in Eastern Standard Time. We got a new severe thunderstorm warning just now near Darien and Delavon. Let's see the storm that has this, and you can see a decent hail core on it. Those are those bigger pink colors. Those are where they're coming from. There might be some hail on this storm, so definitely watch out. But anyways, back to the conditions with the system. You can see the general look of this storm it is looking a little supercellular. You can see there is these individual cells that develop down here in Iowa at around 5 p.m., also up here in Illinois and Wisconsin, like we're seeing now. So that is definitely interesting. Eventually, these will congeal into more of a line system by around 7 p.m. So we don't have many hours of the system left, and that might be why I won't going back live after that break I need to take. Probably because this system will turn into a linear mode, and since all storms are feeding off of the same energy in that mode, then it will be less likely for storm to develop. But storms could still develop. QLCS tornadoes exist, so those could be a problem. And you can still see some discrete supercells. Over here in Missouri, the conditions aren't really favorable, which I'll get to later, but you can still see there are supercellular-like storms that may produce tornadoes in this region, all the way to around 10 p.m., even further than that, really. I mean, these still look concerning out in front of it. Over here, the conditions are less in place, though. This is not going to be like a huge outbreak where every storm can have the potential to produce tornadoes. It's not going to be like what we had last Tuesday. It's going to be a little less likely. I mean, some of these could feed off of that energy, but really, it's a very limited area where that potential is. So let's look at what we're seeing. Let's look at the energy that we have. Now you can see this is the uncapped layer, and there's a lot of energy that is uncapped here. There actually is, which is pretty surprising to me. However, the problem is, if you look, the most unstable cap, the significant tornado parameter instead, that's not really down here, where the cape, which is the fuel that storm can grow, is. So that means while storms can grow down here in Arkansas and Missouri, they can't really produce tornadoes because the significant elements to produce tornadoes are not quite there. They just don't exist down there. Now, down in Louisiana, they start to exist again, which I'm going to get to in a moment. But the only true epicenter you see is over here in northeastern Illinois, which is where you'll see some of those storms later tonight, this evening, and further on. And that will continue a little bit until it completely dwindles as the sun sets at around 9 p.m., and then the tornado energy is it's very much gone. Maybe a little bit down here in Arkansas, too. There wasn't really a tornado threat there, but it still has some tornado parameters. But really, these become very localized and very, very obscure by the time we get into the overnight period. So this is not going to be an overnight thing like we had on Tuesday last week. It's more going to be a very brief setup that we're going to see. So you can see with this storm, it does have a lot of cape. So I think storms will develop all along, and that's why the marginal risk extends through Missouri and Arkansas. But that's why the tornado risks are separated, because the tornado parameters aren't that high, but the severe storms are still possible. So we still might get stuff here because of all this cape energy in Missouri. And since there's some cape up here, uncapped, as you know, that means there's a perfect gradient between cold and warm air, which storms can develop on, does exist up here in northern Illinois, but as you get south, it exists further. But there's still enough here to where storms can develop all the way up here. Still up to 2,000 joules per kilogram, maybe more, which is definitely enough for storms to feed off of, right in our area now, right in the area that we're watching now. So that's basically an overview of the conditions we have up here, but then we gotta look in the southeast. See, these storms are also possibly a threat. Let me just check up back on the radar. Not much has changed. These storms also possibly have a threat with them. We are not so sure what's going to happen with these storms. It's possible that they could produce some tornadoes. You can see they're a little bit discrete, a bit supercellular. They do begin to have more supercell characteristics by later this evening, 5 p.m. to 6 p.m. And you can see This is very brief. They're only kind of producive towards tornadoes in central Louisiana for a very brief time before the line takes over and sort of congeals everything and messes it up. Now, looking at the cape that we have, the energy that there's a lot of it. But once again, the tornado parameter isn't as high as it is in those northern latitudes towards Illinois and Wisconsin. I mean, it's still very localized up there, but it's further more than there is down here. But there still is some epicenters here in Louisiana into Texas, and that's why we have that additional tornado risk here. And we do have this one hot spot here in central Louisiana into central and eastern Texas. But that will be very brief before the storm turns very obscure. And we might get some water spouts in the Gulf of Mexico, but those won't be threat to land, so that won't mean too much. Also, you can see eventually this does get capped. You can see with the faded colors that does mean it's capped, where there isn't a perfect transition between warm to cold air. So this is going to be a very confusing system, but with what we've seen so far, it does seem like that we have, a small threat for tornadoes. Anyways, this one in Wisconsin has been allowed to drop. So you can come out of your safe spots if you were in Elkhorn and East Troy in Wisconsin, because the tornado threat is gone for now. This storm has produced tornadoes on and off, so we still have to watch. There still is a bit of rotation near Hilburn and Lake Beulah, but that doesn't match up with the reflectivity. It has to match up with the reflectivity where storms are, because if it's rotating but no storms are there, that means that it can't be possible that a tornado is being produced. Maybe a land spout or anything, I don't know. I'm not really sure how land spouts work. Oh my gosh, this is a really, really tough hail core there near Dixon. That is definitely very intense, which means there's probably large hail currently occurring near Dixon and Grand Detour. This system still has a bit of a hook echo on it. It's not really rotating that much. I guess it could still be warned. There's still 1.75-inch hail. But I think these storms are starting to weaken. Well, this one here has some rotation on it, but I don't know. These storms are starting to die out, to be honest. Let's look down here in Louisiana to see if there's anything. Nothing in Louisiana except for a flood warning, so be careful for flooding here in New Orleans. There is this one severe thunderstorm warning here in Gillette in Arkansas. There's some rotation on it, but unlikely to produce a tornado. And this is actually perfect timing that everything is kind of weakening because, I have to go soon. There is a little something near Grand Detour, but that's not matching up with the reflectivity, it seems like, so that definitely is a problem. And by the way, if you don't know what app I'm using, I am using Radar Omega. It is a cool app where you get to see all the radars and analyze. This is how many people become meteorologists, at least nowadays, because they can check the rotation of many different storms. And it's not a sponsor, by the way. This is no way a sponsor. I don't have enough subscribers for that. But just know that this is a pretty useful app to use. There's other radar apps like it, though, so I'm not saying you have to use this one. I mean, there is some rotation here, but really is small. Really, I'm focusing on this one. I don't know if that's side lobe contamination. I mentioned that in the last stream. Basically, it's when the radar is detecting rotation that isn't there because they're just detecting winds in different levels of the atmosphere, and they consider that as rotation, but it's not. It's a trick. I mean, some of it is in the convection. Yeah, there could be something there. There's a tornado possible tag on it, so maybe something near Grand Detour? That is some... I don't know, that is some rotation, so I wouldn't be surprised if that got warned. This is approaching towards Boschelle. Yeah, I wouldn't be surprised if that got warned. I don't know. Okay, I kind of see why it's still warned. This. It's not really that bad, though. No CC drop. And that's barely in convection. This might expire soon. It is going to anyways. 11 minutes. I do have to go in 10 minutes, so we'll make the most of the time we have left, but I might come back if there's still a severe weather threat. Just looking at my analytics. So there is a storm chaser nearby, but I can't use their footage, of course, because that would probably be copyrighted. But at least we'll know that there's something there. I mean, that might not be with any convection. Yeah, that's with nothing, so that can't be any rotation. If there's no storms there, then there's probably not a tornado. There's a little something developing up here in this morning. Geez, this has some really big hail. It's only saying 1 inch in diameter. It might be a little more with what this is saying. That rotation has dissipated, though. The one I was talking about earlier, that has dissipated a little bit. Still some here, but it's a little gone now, so that's a good thing. Up here, we're still watching these Wisconsin storms. There's a little something here, but I think that might just be sideload contamination again. Because you see, all these colors are splotched, which means there is not really any shore area of rotation. Plus, the area of rotation wouldn't be this big, so it's pretty sideload contamination. These are heading towards Milwaukee, though, but I think they're starting to lose their tornadic parameters. You see this 2% risk? They are entering out of it, so that might mean that they have less of a chance to develop. Still is this rotating storm near Coletta. Sort of isn't a storm. There's a little rotation here. In the Nachusa grasslands and Lost Nation. It's a little bit of rotation. Once again, I wouldn't be surprised if that got warned, but this might be very brief because it just developed. Well, no, that was the same rotation that we saw before. So, I don't know. Maybe this would get warned. We'll see. Because if they warn these two, I expect they would warn that one, but... Once again, I do have to leave in 5 minutes. But I will likely be back. Likely. By around 6:45. There's a little bit of rotation developing there southeast of Coletta, so there is a reason for this warning to be still in effect. That is concerning. It's heading towards Route 40, just to the south of Milledgeville, towards Palmyra. Something. And there's still rotation here. So maybe that should get warned? I'm not sure. Is there a CC drop? It's kind of hard to tell with this one, because this might just be from hail. Because there was a lot of hail in this storm, because those are flying objects through the air. That might just be from hail. It's kind of hard to tell with this storm, unfortunately. Yeah, and it's a little bit off-center from the reflectivity. I don't know. There could be something there, but... This rotation is in a storm, though, so this has more of a reason to be warned. Yeah, so, reading off some of the locations here. So not too much around here. It's fairly lowly populated. Let me see if there is some houses, because it does show that. There is some houses. These little locations, those are houses. So, I don't know if there is a tornado on the ground here, but just be careful and be in shelter, because there is a tornado warning. And that isn't a storm. No CC drop. So, that's concerning. A little something here, but not really something to go home about. Yeah, I think the thing with these storms, they're starting to lose that energy that is enriched by sunlight. They could still have a last hurrah, though. Because some of these storms could still go through the rest of northern Illinois and produce some storms. It's still possible. In the upper areas, there's some rotation there, but if you look here, there's still a little something there. But the thing is, it's not really matched up with... maybe it is. I don't know. This storm could have a tornado on it, but... that's only could. This storm looks like it's gonna get expired. So... don't get out of your shelters yet, because it hasn't been expired yet, but realize it probably is soon. Over here, the rotation has kind of dropped down a little bit, but it's still there. And it's still in the storm. Nothing down here. Just some hail. Do have to leave very soon. Some rotation here, but not really much. I don't know, these storms are starting to weaken. Maybe a little bit of rotation here near Arcola, Mississippi. Barely. I don't really think that's anything, so... there are some flood warnings here, though. So be careful, because this is flash flood warnings. That means you could have some flooding in the creeks and streams. Some roads may be flooded over. So be careful with that. If you live in Simmsport, Cottonport, Moralville, Hesmer. Of course, Louisiana has some of those French names for their towns, so I might not be pronouncing them right. Alright, that tornado warning has been able to expire. So now we just have this storm, which may persist for a little bit. And we still have rotation on this storm. It's not anything huge, but still something. Near Oregon. And that other tornado warning has been allowed to expire. Okay, so we're free from the tornado warnings. And... well, that's pretty perfect timing for me to leave now. I'm going to probably be back. We'll see if these storms end up doing nothing more. If that was it. If that was the end. I mean, if it is just a marginal risk, this is probably it. But, you know, we still always have to watch, because these systems always may have something with them. But anyways, that's it for me for a moment. I may or may not come back. But, you know, we'll see in a moment. But anyways, thank you for watching, and I'll be back soon, either with a live stream or another video. Okay.